cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today.
What up? Back with another Magic Johnson video. This one from the channel Thinking Basketball. I've liked out most of the content he's put out so far. How Magic Johnson destroyed teams without volume scoring from the Greatest Peak series. I'm not going to make a long intro here talking about Magic Johnson because I've done it on lots of videos, but Magic Johnson, in my opinion, is the greatest point guard to ever play the game. Sorry, Steph Curry fans. Yes, Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard to ever play the game. Magic Johnson, y'all know, very, very big for a point guard, but had amazing passing abilities. I've never seen a player pass the ball like Magic Johnson, and especially on the fast break, man. Magic just made fast breaks beautiful. Not much of a defensive player, but could really bully players when he gets down low to score. Could throw little baby hooks out there, jump hooks, baby hooks. Definitely could kill you on the fast break. Wasn't like a killer in the mid-range, but was more than capable of hitting a mid-range jumper, and wasn't a killer on the three-point range, but more than capable at hitting threes from time to time. But Magic could get his points how he knew how. He knew his spots. He knew what to do. He knew how to take advantage of matchups, big or small. But more than anything, Magic Johnson was a phenomenal synergist and could slip that ball anywhere it could possibly go and anywhere it couldn't possibly go. But to be honest with you, boy could pass, man. But let's see how they break down Magic Johnson's ability to destroy teams without volume scoring. Let's take a look at it.
Earvin Magic Johnson, the star of Showtime, a highlight reel legend who won 5 championships in Los Angeles. But was there more to his game than just fancy passing? What was his defensive impact like? And could someone who wasn't a huge scorer actually be the greatest offensive player in NBA history?
Oh, is that the stance we're taking? Okay, I'm here for this.
Larry Bird in all this. Has it blocked by Elijah Wan. Michael Jordan saves the day.
This series tackles one question: who was the best at his best? We start at the ABA merger and go through the best multi-year stretches, examining the legends who provided the most on-court impact. These are the greatest peaks.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
In the early days of the NBA, ball handling was left to the shorter players. Point guards maxed out at about 6'5" until young Magic Johnson shattered that ceiling. At 6'8", Magic had the size of a big man, but instead he became the tallest floor general in league history. Earvin always possessed these high-level ball skills, playing this way in high school and college, and his ability to handle the ball at high speed made him a unicorn in transition. With everyone within 20 feet of the hoop then, rebounds turned into foot races, and Magic's speed strained backpedaling defenders. That little change of direction is enough to spin around the defense, and there are no bigs back to stop the oversized Johnson. With everyone chasing offensive rebounds, Magic could often charge the rim as the largest player, and he loved that in and out dribble, but also notice his change of direction at speed, the big step one way, then striding the other. He wasn't quite a Euro stepper in these spots, but his use of elongated strides for his height was part of his downhill devastation, even against set defenders. That's a baby cut there to dust the first defender, a beautiful behind-the-back dribble, and then almost a proto-Euro step with a big step right, then changing directions back to the left. He wasn't Giannis, but Magic's size and head of speed made it difficult to keep him from getting to the cup, and so he became the godfather of the grab and go, scooping a rebound and flooring it to the other end. Even on makes, he would build speed and drive it down your throat. Danny Ainge stays with the crossover here, but Boston's center isn't back yet, so Magic can easily clean up the miss. Off this make, he builds up speed, and Seattle's center is near the three-point line, so that change of direction turns him around, and look at how low and sturdy Johnson is. He's powering through contact with his body, and it's free throws. Here come the Lakers again off a make, only this time Boston has pieces in place, but Magic upshifts into a backpedaling Ainge, and so help defenders need to sink into the lane, and that just creates wide open offense. Defenses who flooded the paint in transition to wall off Magic still surrendered perimeter jumpers. These outside jumpers were big wins for defenses, especially long twos, but Magic's pressure created a kind of pick your poison where if help came, he smoked it with his passing. Jack approves. So that made big men reluctant to leave their marks, and then Magic just scored over smaller defenders. His playmaking was so threatening he could use it to unlock scoring.
Yes.
Imagine playing defense against this. If you sprint back, Magic uses that body to cut you off and slow you down, and if you're a big man hustling back, you have to snap yourself around only to cover AC Green flying down the wing, but joke's on you because the Magician still has the ball. Of course, Magic's threat to score also opened passing windows in turn, and this is all possible because of his dribbling, behind the back, through the legs, whatever it took. Magic was incredibly secure with his handle in tight spots, changing speeds when needed, shielding the ball with his body, and snapping passes off the bounce. This allowed him to probe defenses. He's cut off well here, but protects the ball from a trailer and then attacks with the left, and again the body protects the rock. He made it look easy, but at 6'8", Magic's ability to protect the ball at speed, he was rarely ever stripped, and use his body to shield defenders made him arguably the most dominant transition weapon ever. It was largely the same story in the half court too. This guard tries to funnel Magic into this big man, but he ends up bodying him out of the play, and it's free throws. Irvin also used that tight handle and change of speed. This stop and go turned John Stockton into a matador,
Nasty.
and Magic's acceleration could blow by athletic wings. He could also score from floater range, flowing into shots at all kinds of angles with crafty little releases like this. Fist pump. When headed right to left, he also had a rolling hook shot from this range, and he could feel contact and immediately hop into a soft shot attempt. His size and body control made these looks clean, and Magic's incredible dexterity led to some seriously soft touch on these shots. He also used his size to pick apart defenses from the perimeter, hurling assists over the top, and the accuracy and speed on some of these deliveries set them apart. Again, he's using his body here, able to shield off defenders by turning his back while still seeing all the action. And his height let him keep a live dribble while just diming up teammates over shorter guards. And these were some of the most brilliant passes ever. Does anyone look open here? Because Magic slingshots a pass over traffic to Worthy, all because this defender turned away from James to navigate the screen.
Like I
Worthy
said.
stopped instead of going through, and Magic's third eye read the whole thing. Johnson fired bold passes like this across
It's
the
the
paint
bounce pass right
regularly,
here.
and they required velocity and the acuity to read defenders' eyes so he could throw fastballs right by their heads and they couldn't react in time. Bonus points for trying this against Larry Bird, who already picked off a tight Magic pass earlier in that game. That one was a looping attempt, and Magic clearly trusted his fastball more, sometimes even too much, overestimating how quickly he could teleport one past a nearby defender. And there are spots where a lob or something softer over the top look open, but he often throws it harder. Here he needs to lob one out in front of his intended receiver, but misses it, and then he's called for a one-step travel, changing his mind. Another minor nitpick about Magic's fastball is that sometimes it was a little too hot to handle. But most of the time, his passing velocity fit the ball into tight windows. For instance, some of his entries from the top like this were just bullseyes. He wasn't quite at Bird's level as an outlet passer, but he was splendid there as well, able to use that hair.
I meant to say that earlier, it crossed my mind, but it didn't come out my mouth. Is like, only thing I think Bird was I think Bird's the best outlet passer ever. Other than that, I think Magic's the best passer in NBA history. But as far as outlet passes go, that goes to Bird.
Pin trigger off the bounce from the back court, and Magic's best outlets were snapping completions to his streaking teammates like this. There is an argument that Bird was a better pure passer of sorts, but I'm comfortable saying he was a superior off-ball passer where Magic's dribbling gave him a huge on-ball edge. Johnson carved out way more chances, and risk-taking in those spots is a natural trade-off. He also mastered certain angles and reads and relentlessly hit them over and over, and so it's nearly impossible to argue that anyone created more offense for his teammates in the 60s, 70s, or 80s than peak Magic Johnson. Using our best estimates of shots created, no one forced help and then set up a teammate more than Magic until the 2000s. And even if we include everyone from the three-point era, Johnson still looks historically strong as a playmaker in these estimates. So, just how high did all of this playmaking take the Lakers on offense? And did Magic give back any of that value because of questionable defense?
The converse weapon, that's to shoot, that's Magic do what he was born to do.
Toward the end of the 80s, more of Magic's shot creation came in the half court as the Lakers moved away from a steady diet of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar post-ups and started running more pick and roll for Magic. These were mostly side pick and rolls inside the line, where defenses committed extra defenders and Magic could spray passes for open looks. This two-man game gave defenses fits, where if they didn't send extra defenders, Magic could slice into the openings himself. But of course, his passing punished any help. The defense collapses, and this was before that little lob pass was popular. Off pick and roll, Magic could use all his little scoring tricks headed to the rim.
Good handle.
He could put that speedy hook pass to good use, hitting the roll man. And it wasn't as common, but he could make the pocket pass too. But perhaps the most critical part of this half-court dance was Magic's outside shooting, where he'd punish defenders who went under the screen. He didn't pull this as frequently as some players do today, but there were times when he was quick to fire, and he was an underrated outside shooter. In the last 3 years of his career, he shot 90% at the foul line, and he extended his range beyond the three-point stripe, hitting 34% of those. Before the 87 season, Magic said he had to shift his mindset to become more of a scorer, and I think it's reflected in his willingness to pull the trigger on outside shots and attack in the post more. He was more aggressive, taking smaller players to the block and using his size to score over them like this. Although on these little flip shots, he did need a clean look to be effective, so instead he regularly busted out hook shots with both hands. And his combination of size, strength, and craftiness made him a serious mismatch against guards down there. And yes, if you send help, he would set up teammates from the block. Look, I'm not a doctor, but double teaming Magic Johnson in the post is not something I'd recommend. As Kareem faded, the Lakers actually played more in the half court behind Magic. Their pace was below average from 1987 to 1991, and that's when Magic quarterbacked some of the most efficient offenses in NBA history. In the back half of the 80s, the Lakers produced the third best offensive stretch since the shot clock in both the regular season and the playoffs. Defense, however, was another story. Johnson often guarded forwards or slower guards to offset his slow foot speed. His lack of lateral quickness made him vulnerable on an island, and you can see how choppy his side-to-side movement could be, sliding in front of a young Charles Barkley here. Take a closer look at his footwork. He's on his heels a lot, gambles with a reach, then can't really break well and commits a reckless foul. Same technique here, and he's roasted by a pedestrian point guard, although Magic rarely had to venture outside 20 feet in the 1980s like this. Back then, sagging way off guards who stood near the line was standard, and this buffer helped him avoid breakdowns in these matchups. When he played slower forwards, his size definitely helped him. Here, Bird's not quick enough to beat Magic's loping steps. And as he lost some quickness at the end of the decade, he could be assigned to jump shooting bigs. because LA's forwards, AC Green and James Worthy, were both nimble enough to handle many wings. If those big men were to take Magic to the post, his size offered some resistance, although even on the low block, his subpar agility and lack of vertical explosion could be exploited. He was actually more comfortable double-teaming the post, where he could dig down and attack big men of that post-centric era, although I wouldn't call his hands great. They could miss the mark and he would foul on imprecise swipes at times. At 6'8", he did make kick-out passes a touch harder, yet he didn't attack the ball on that first dribble nearly as much as someone like Bird, often remaining upright on these plays or offering a weak flail at the rock. Magic's height was more of an asset on entry passes from smaller guards, and here comes that pseudo Euro step again. This is an overhead view of the perks of being tall, just throwing his hands up against a smaller guard, and deflections like this triggered that vaunted Showtime fast break. Like Bird, Magic also roamed a lot on the edge of the paint, so he could slide over on drives like this when he wasn't doubling the post. Here's a nice sequence where he stays with the cutter and then peels off to help on the action, and that deflection saved a Boston layup. He could also help down on cutters at the rim, sniffing this out and doing just enough to disrupt it, and this is probably the best defensive play I've seen him make in the late 80s, quickly reacting to the pass this time, and those hands were right on the money. Yet for all of his court vision, Magic wasn't always aware of the ball, occasionally tunnel visioning on the screening action in front of him as the ball dribbled right past him. He also fell asleep every once in a while. After a jumper, Bird beat him over the top twice with this in one game. Here he is in transition, unaware of the threat behind him, and he gets a taste of his own medicine. But these issues weren't too common. His bigger issue in the paint was verticality. He often slid over but offered statuesque resistance, and even Magic's better rotations weren't always effective because of how floor-bound he was. Here's a bumpy possession highlighting his two biggest weaknesses. He can't contain the guard courtside because of his slow feet, then he lingers on the edge of the paint and delicately slides to the ball for a foul. He rarely contested at the rim in the half court, but in transition he was often the first defender back, and he might as well have been 5'8" in these situations. It's not a huge part of the game either, but this is probably the best transition contest I found in countless opportunities. His typical approach in these spots was avoiding contact by subtly moving out of the way, which preserved Magic's body in exchange for paperweight defense. 0-inch vertical contests rarely work. He didn't block many shots during this period, and when he did catch one, it was using that same low block technique we saw from Bird, targeting the ball while it's in the hand still, and it's amazing to me how similar yet different these two were. Neither was suited to stay with quick perimeter players, and they often roamed around on defense, taking advantage of the compressed game back then. Bird pushed boundaries as an off-ball post player and shooter, while Magic cranked the dial up with his on-ball passing and speed game. And they also played next to Hall of Fame centers, and while Kevin McHale is rightfully heralded as an artist in the post, James Worthy was an isolation machine. Worthy blended perfectly with Magic as Kareem faded, providing a more dynamic half-court backup plan. Note how many great Magic passes are off a Worthy cut, and of course, Big Game James was incredible running the wing in transition. Unfortunately, we can't really examine their missed time during the 80s because Magic and his teammates were so healthy, but the more comprehensive approach we used in episode 1 that figured out a player's impact on his team ranks Magic second all time, reinforcing, at the very least, that he was having monster offensive impact. All-in-one metrics also view his peak as one of history's very best. If we use 1986 instead of 1989 here, he's actually 5th in both stats, but I don't think there's enough of a defensive boost from that 86 season to outweigh his increased offensive aggression at the end of the decade. Remember, that aggression only enhanced his playmaking, the opposite phenomenon we discussed with Wilt Chamberlain in episode 1. Magic scored less than Wilt, but was a far more dominant weapon because he maximized his playmaking off of his scoring. He did this with near optimal shot selection as well, rarely ever forcing low percentage attempts or settling for something easy before testing the defense. Magic's also viewed as a good rebounder because of his 6 or 7 boards a game, well listed as a point guard, but he was functionally closer to a wing and wasn't overly physical boxing out big men when switching on to them. And while there might have been a tactical advantage to him cleaning the glass to start the fast break, I think this kind of rebounding only added a little defensive value. I do think he could string together decent possessions in the moments where his motor was revved up, but it's hard to view him as much of a positive on that end. Instead, the offense is so good, it elevates him among the legends by itself. His game does come with a small trade-off. He was significantly less effective without monopolizing the basketball, meaning any other on-ball star wouldn't fit well next to him. But with post pieces or good finishers, he basically guaranteed you a championship-level offense. And that means despite only scoring 20 points per game, Magic Johnson has a strong case as the greatest offensive player of all time.
First all-time passer rating. I didn't have to look at that to know that was the case. Dude could really pass the bat ball. But yeah, it's about everything he mentioned is about right, about what I expected him to say for the most part, as far as everything goes. All the details of Magic Johnson's game. Spot on with the defensive analysis, no doubt about that. That was very, 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 very accurate. But they go through the data, the video footage, put out the content. It's okay with me. It's okay with me. But yeah, I also like how they highlight that how, we always see the passes that make it, but we never see the passes that don't make it, the ones that are intercepted, definitely nitpicking when it comes to Magic Johnson's passing, considering how successful of a passer he is, but sheds light on when it could go wrong or when he could not overplay the pass, but they're putting too much sauce on it sometimes, or not putting enough sauce on it at times, or the occasional times he was picked off. But when you put it on a scale, right, doesn't really compare, right, to all the successful passes that he makes. Then I think about, I saw a bunch of passes in there where either the player got fouled so he didn't get the assist, or the player missed it and he didn't get the assist, but the pass was on the money. And hey, if you're that elite of a passer, passing and getting people open shots and making it easier for them to score is part of offense. So here's an argument that people think it's just scoring, but no, it's how do you create the offense? You know what I mean? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Magic Johnson. Go check out our Magic Johnson playlist if you want to see more Magic Johnson highlights and discussions. I got a handful of videos about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in the Magic Johnson playlist. So go check it out. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe. Ding, 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 ding. Hit that bell. Stay notified. And I catch you on the next one. We out, baby.